We're joined by Pieter Cleppe. He's the editor-in-chief at the news website Brussels Report. Good to see you and welcome to the show. You know, President Xi was just in Moscow not too long ago. Now we have Macron visiting Beijing with van der Leyen as well. It seems like there's definitely some movement in terms of dialogue, but we haven't seen a lot of action yet. I want to start this off with what are, I guess, Europe's expectations?
Well, I think we have to make a distinction between France and the European Commission. So basically, France has a tradition of trying to chart an independent course from the transatlantic alliance. It's very much in favor of the transatlantic alliance, but it does not want to be dependent on it. And applied to the basically Russian invasion of Ukraine, Macron clearly thinks that there's more scope for peace talks than the Americans do. And this is his main purpose, is to try to make progress in trying to convince China to play a role to push Russia to a solution of some sort.
Right. But China has played a role already. I mean, arguably they've had the most dialogue with Moscow and President Putin, and this just occurred. And I'm just curious, what else could China do that perhaps hasn't been discussed about already, or Macron wants President Xi to do?
Well, I suspect if you're talking about very concrete suggestions that France would and Macron would give to the Chinese leadership, it would be to at least contact the Ukrainian leadership. There has not been a phone call yet. That's been one of the points cited by the West. Now, the plan submitted by China for peace has been welcomed rather negatively, even if, let's say, more hawkish players like the United Kingdom have acknowledged that there are some positive points as well. But all in all, this has not been seen as something that could actually lead to a quick resolution. The feeling in Europe, not just in the States, is that there's so much more that China can do. The feeling is that as a result of this invasion, Putin has ultimately, weakened Russia. He has laid bare the weakness of the Russian army, and some maybe the more extreme comments are people arguing that Russia is turning into some kind of a puppet state for China. Is probably exaggerated, but some people are arguing that way.
Peter, I have heard from other experts when it comes to China and Russia, and this may be controversial, but what the experts are saying is that China does not want this conflict to continue. China doesn't benefit from an extended conflict because China also wants to do trade with France or the European Commission and the rest of the world. And this is a big dark cloud that's hanging over the country. At the same time, they're trying to come out of COVID and trying to sort of get back into normal business relationships. And this Russia thing is a real issue, not just for the Europeans, but also for the Chinese as well.
I think that's fair. I think China was absolutely not waiting for this. It looks like Putin had told the Chinese leadership, Mr. Xi, that this special operation would be over very quickly. And then guess what? It's still ongoing. I'm pretty sure the Chinese leadership is not happy with this. At the same time, there is a clear annoyance in Beijing about the United States, and they have expressed clear sympathies for Russia, for sort of standing on the other side of that conflict. So I think it's both. At the end of the day, what everybody should hope for is that the French president makes some progress. I'm sure that also the Americans, even if they're skeptic, that they hope that French President Macron can help to convince China.
And one thing that China enjoys in all these different summits and meetings is to discuss trade as well. Trade between Europe and China has increased significantly over the past couple of decades. It remains a bedrock of the Chinese economy. I have to think that trade concerns or issues are going to come up, potentially even new agreements, right?
Well, that's indeed another very important topic. Now there's been this investment partnership between China and Europe that had been concluded but then has been frozen as a result of mutual tensions with Europe sanctioning some Chinese officials over Xinjiang and China sanctioning some MEPs. To be frank, there's very little hope that this particular partnership will be revived anytime soon. But despite that, of course, trade between China and Europe is very intense. And I mean, the fact that you have so many companies joining Macron, to China, which is ending its COVID measures, or has practically ended it, is proof that there are great hopes that despite everything, and despite all the talk about decoupling, that many European companies are still very interested to have more trade with China.
Peter, it's no question the interconnectedness of the entire global economy. Obviously, a very big meeting. We will, of course, keep everyone up to date as developments warrant. But Peter, thank you very much for your analysis.